Hello, I'm back. Welcome to 2025, the Minutes with Milo show, first show of the new year. Welcome to us all. Year. Welcome. There we go. Going out on the internet. That's cool. And I hope so far your New Year's has been good. I hope you had a good Christmas. Hope you had good holidays. Had good family, friends, all that good, happy, ha-ha, cheery stuff. So, first show for the year, but it is my 100th and 180th episode, show, broadcast, telecast, broadcasting, network stuffy, whatever. I don't know. But tonight's show is something like most everything, and I know if you watched any of these, you watched a couple of them, I'm going to say it again. You could probably just skip through this part. I just stumbled across this stuff. That's why these, I don't have a plan really. I just stuff, stuff is like, man, I want to talk about that. I didn't know about that. I don't know how many people knew about that before I knew about that. Probably a lot. But I stumbled across these two fellers that did some wild stuff back in the early 1900s when people still rode horses. Cars weren't the big thing. Only the richy people had cars. So, just as a side note, this is mulled cider. My sister got it for me for Christmas. It came in a looked like a little brown jug. It almost looks like a small pancake syrup jug. And you know the kind I'm talking about. Shape, got a little handle, pour it out. But it's a concentrate, so you heat the water, you pour out a couple of tablespoons, you sit it in there and heat it. And what it is, I guess mulled means they do something funny to it. Apple cider with nutmeg, cinnamon, allspice, that kind of stuff. Gives it that cinnamon mini flavor. And it's pretty decent. It's getting colder and colder. Sometimes when it gets cold like that, I like to have something warm to drink. Sometimes I even drink tea. I've drunk coffee at night. Doesn't seem to affect me too much, but I had this, so I thought I would drink it. Anywho, back to my story. All right, so Lewis and Temple Abernaty were brothers, and they were young boys, and they were young adventurous boys. And in my book, this is what blew my mind. In my book, it was way too adventurous. It just blows my mind how adventurous these two young boys were. And part of the reason it blows my mind about how adventurous they were, it blows my mind on how, I don't know what word to use to describe their parents. Nonchalant, crazy, on the verge of being, putting child endangerment. This story is right up there with almost putting your kids in a box and mailing them to your in-laws or something. I mean, almost to me, almost that crazy. That sounds far-fetched, but we could do a story on this. People used to mail their kids, literally, when the postal service got really going and all that kind of stuff. They would, I say mail, they would ship their kids. That's time for another story. If you don't want to wait for whenever I get around to putting that one out, look it up. When I first heard about it, visions go bouncing around inside my head and it's like, holy cow. But even though it sounds bad, it was, oh, okay, so that's what you mean by shipping your kids. And it made a little bit more sense. But these two young fellers, their story is almost to the point where they, to me, stuff a kid in a box or a pet, put a label on it, and put it in the mailbox and send it off. That's almost, it just blew my mind. And maybe it wasn't that bad. I did a little research. So, maybe if you were to read the full story, I'm sure there's a book. There are books about these guys and that kind of stuff. Maybe it wasn't as blatant, as what it seems like on the surface. But anyway, we'll get into this. Of course, we'll get this window capture going. I'm going to pull you along with me here. As always, we're going to do some research online, the both of us, all of us, the tens and thousands of us. We're going to look at this. I'm going to make you pay attention. Pay attention when I'm talking to you, son. Pay attention. Pay attention when I'm talking to you, son. I'm going to put me at the head of the class. Put me. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What is that? What is going on with this? How did this happen? Is that too much? Is that too much for me? Let's put you down there. Let's see how that looks. There you go. That's about right. That's about right. Wikipedia. Welcome to Wikipedia. All right. Lewis Abernathy and Temple Abernaty. Garthog, what's going on? Happy New Year to you too, buddy. Having me a little mulled cider. As I was telling everybody before you came in, it was a Christmas present. So I'm just going to have me some on this cool, chilly night. I hope we get a little snow. I'd like to see a good snow, 3 or 4 inches. I know it's not going to happen, but I'd like to see a good snow. Come and go, last a couple of days. All right. So let's just jump into the Wikipedia. Let's see. Oh, you're killing me. You're killing me, son. You're killing me. All right. Louis Von Bud, as he was also affectionately called, Abernathy. Born December 17th, 1899. All right. So this takes place early 1900s. He died March 6th, 1979. Temple Reeves, known as Temp Abernathy, March 25th, 1904. So he was 5 years younger than Bud. He died December 10th, 1986. Lived a little bit longer. Were children from Oklahoma who, without adult supervision, took several cross-country trips. All right. On one trip, they rode on horseback from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, to Manhattan in New York. And it was 1910. So Temple Abernaty was 6 years old when he did that, when they did that. Put your head on that. Just that one paragraph. Think about that. It's 1910. 1910. And this 11-year-old and 6-year-old, I think, right? Is that what I said? Yeah. He was born in 1904, and they took the trip to Manhattan in 1910. That's 6. And his brother was 5 years older than him. So 11 and 6 rode a horse. I don't know, maybe more. Maybe it killed the horse. Rode the horse from Oklahoma City. This is what I want to do. All right. We're going to see how far that is. All right. We want to do okay. Oak. Well, let's see. All right. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. To the starting point. We started in Oklahoma. We want to go to Manhattan, New York. All right. 1,453 miles. It would take you 22 hours and 14 minutes to drive there. 1,453 miles. All right. So I noticed on the map that there was a Manhattan, Oklahoma, or Wyoming or someplace. So I just want to make sure. I want to hover over the little link in the Wikipedia where they put in from Oklahoma, okay? Oklahoma is a state in the south central region of the United States. It borders Texas to the south and west, Kansas to the north. That's Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. To Manhattan. Manhattan is the most densely populated and geographically smallest of the 5 boroughs of New York City. All right, so that's what they're talking about. Not any other Manhattan, not any other Oklahoma. 1,453 miles. All right, if you walked it, Google Smart. It doesn't have a horseback, but it's walking. What did it say? 22 days? 549 hours. Well, it said 22 days. Up here it is. Oh, you can't see that. Oh, I can't see that, silly boy. Where is it? Okay. So you watch, it's 549, 1,500 miles. Bicycles says 6 days. And if you can tell on the map here, it's uphill all the way, by the way. You ride a bicycle, it's uphill. Get it? It's uphill all the way. It says 100. What is it? Up here at the top, it'll tell me days, but down here in the bottom, it gives me hours. It says this route includes a ferry. They probably didn't have a ferry. Maybe they had to make the horse swim the river. I don't know. Yeah, Garth, they were daring, but how stupid were the parents? It clearly said without adult supervision. Now you look at this. Let me move that to the side. Let me get up here. Come on. Oh, what did you do? There. Okay, what's back? Woo. I'm back. Man, what is this? Why is it doing that? Anyway, I was trying to scoot that stupid thing over. Hello. There we go. All right. So this is nowadays times. Obviously, this is nowadays times. Did you mean GPS? Instead of CPS? I don't know what CPS would stand for, but I'll play. Oh, some reason I was thinking GPS because we were talking about traveling. I don't know. It's just what went through my head. I guess I don't know. I don't know. Without adult supervision, okay. Here's the funny part. It's all kind of crazy funny. Let me zoom in here on it just a little bit. Well, what? Zoom in that way. I mean, like I said, this is nowadays times. Lots of good roads. I mean, if you jumped on a bicycle and started Oklahoma, you could ride roads the whole way. In 1910, what was there, man? They rode a horse. There wasn't even wasn't even good maps, I don't think. I don't know. Did the horse know the way to carry the sleigh? I doubt it. Maybe they bought a horse in New York, Manhattan, right? Brought it to Oklahoma, jumped on it and said, go home. And off it took. Off it went. They just hung on. I don't know. I have no idea. But okay, so let's get back to this little story. All right. Here. Early years and journey. Lewis, sometimes styled Louie, they just called him that. I thought his nickname was Bud, but anyway. Was born in Texas, 1899, Temple Abernaty. Temple was born in 1904. Their father was cowboy and U.S. Marshal Jack Abernaty. Okay. I get the part about the cowboy. Cowboys is going like, go away, boys, do whatever. I've got things I need to get done. But a U.S. Marshal? A U.S. Marshal? Sure, boys. Take old, Jeb the mule horse out there and just, I don't know, go to Manhattan or something, man. I got work to do. A U.S. Marshal. All right, let's open this thing right here. Let's look at U.S. Marshal man. Born in 1876. Died 1941 at age 64 in Long Beach, California. Boy, He's buried in Wichita Falls, Texas. All right, so I take all this back. United States Marshal Service from 1906 to 1910. 1910 is when the boys took the trip. Yeah, okay. Commander come in and said, what are you doing, you John, you're fired. Let them boys ride a horse all the way to Manhattan. It's crazy. Why would they even call him Marshal Jack Abernathy when he was only in the service for United States Marshal Service for 4 years? That don't seem right. But anyway, he was a marshal. All right. John Reeves Abernathy. He was also known as Catch 'em Alive Jack. was an American cowboy, U.S. Marshal, and Western legend from Bosque County, Texas. Let's see, in 1882, his family moved to Nolan County, Texas, and entered the cattle business. In 1887, at the age of 11, he worked as a cowboy for the AKX Ranch and helped drive a large herd of cattle 500 miles to the market at Englewood, Kansas. Okay, so he's 11 with a bunch of other cowboys, and he goes 500 miles on horseback. That don't impress me. To support his family, Abernathy traveled the country catching wolves and sold them to zoos. That don't sound like a very cowboyish thing to do. Cowboys killed wolves. He sold them to zoos, circus, and traveling shows. His traveling show caught the attention of President Theodore Roosevelt, who invited Abernathy to go on a wolf hunt with him and some of his colleagues on a ranch in Oklahoma. By the end of the wolf hunt, Abernathy and Roosevelt were good friends. Abernathy spent his time catching wolves, and he was the age of 28 when his friend President Roosevelt appointed Abernathy as the federal U.S. Marshal over the Oklahoma Territory in 1906. Now, this might explain why he was only on there in 4 years, making him the youngest U.S. Marshal in history. In 1907, his wife passed away, leaving Abernathy alone with his children. Abernathy resigned his post of U.S. Marshal in 1910 and moved his family to Wichita Falls, Texas, during the oil boom to become a wildcatter. His children included Lewis and Temple Abernaty, who rode their horse from Oklahoma to New York City to visit their father and meet Theodore Roosevelt. His last born child was Jessie Pearl Abernaty. Her name was changed to Jessie Pearl after her mother died soon after giving birth. Jessie wrote books and moved to California and was a realtor. Jack Abernathy and his wife had 5 children in the following order. I don't care about that. So here, their first adventure, the 2 boys on horseback from Oklahoma. Okay, the first adventure was from Oklahoma to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and back, alone at the age of 9 and 5. Next was the horseback ride from Oklahoma to New York City. On a bet, they rode from Coney Island, New York to San Francisco. Okay, so I read about this one too. They made a bet that they could go from Coney Island to San Francisco in 60 days. And if they could get there in 60 days, they were going to win like $10,000 or something. It took them 62 days and they didn't get a penny. Unbelievable. All right. So on a bet, they rode from Coney Island, New York to San Francisco, California at the ages of 11 and 7. They averaged about 60 miles a day on the 4,500-mile trip, arriving in 62 days. That broke the only previously known record set earlier by an Army officer who had ridden horseback coast to coast in 182 days. It is all in Alty Abernathy's book. But they didn't win the bet, and they didn't get any money out of that. So how were they financing these things? So many questions, not enough answers. All right, let's get back up here. This thing was they went to ride from Oklahoma to Manhattan to meet Theodore Roosevelt, and apparently their father. They made the trip in 1910. They were greeted as celebrities and rode their horse in a ticker tape parade just behind the car that was carrying Roosevelt. While in New York, the boys purchased a small Bush motor car, which they drove by themselves back to Oklahoma, shipping their horse home by train. I don't. They let these boys buy a car and drive it home. Drive it home. Let's see what a small Bush motor car looks like. Oh my gosh. Bush Runabout Company Factory, 12568 Oakland Avenue, Highland Park, Michigan. Bush Motor Car Company was from 1907 to 1909. Was the Bush Runabout Company from 1909 to 1913. From 1907 to 1913, they produced 13,000 cars. The class was an entry-level car. Well, that's good because these boys were only like 11. They weren't ready to drive a big car. 2 passengers, all right. 1-cylinder engine. 1-cylinder engine. That's a cool looking little old car. How did they buy gas? How did they know how to drive? Was it brand new? What happens if it broke down? It's got a top. That's got to be better than riding a horse already. It doesn't eat anything. That's +2 for the car. But they shipped the horse back home on the train. All right, let's think about this for this little piece. Let's think about this little piece for just a second. They're in New York. I know it. maybe they push started it up all the time. I don't know. Man, maybe they couldn't hand crank it, so they let the littlest one drive, and the other boy pushed. I don't know. Did it have a clutch? Hell, I don't know. Pop a clutch and off it went. I don't know. So, all right. They're in New York City, and they have a horse. Now, you know the horse already has. Yeah, I always park on the hill and just kick the block out and let it roll. So they have the horse. You know, the horse has 1,400 miles on it already. Could they sell the horse and then put a down payment on the car? Maybe they could have done that, but what did they do? No, man, they shipped the horse back on the train. They buy a car. Where did they get the money to buy the car? They had to put gas in it. Who gives them money all the way to drive 1,400 some miles on a 1-cylinder car? And then they buy a ticket on the train for their horse and ship it. Well, it has to be fed and pooped and watered while it's riding on the train. And by this time, their father wasn't a marshal anymore. Maybe he didn't make good money being a wildcatter on oil rigs. Maybe he just made money and gave it to them and goes, hey boys, go out and have fun with it. So this is what the car looked like. I kind of like it. Kind of like the car. Looks cool. I'm not so crazy about dude's Bolshevik hat, whatever that thing's going on there. I like this dude's hat. Yo, man, let me say this new pager I got. You can type messages on it. Yeah, this is your first texting machine right here. This guy, or is that a girl? I'm thinking it's a guy with this apron thing on to help keep him warm. Because even though the top may come up, buddy, there's not a windshield on this thing. I don't even know. I don't even. What do you think the top would attach to? You think maybe it just has, maybe it has straps? Can we get other pictures of this car? Okay, yeah, all right. Here we go. Yeah, I was right. So it almost looks like the Herman Munster mobile, but the top. Let's see if I can shrink this down a smidgen. It's way too big for the screen. There we go. So the top comes up and is just strapped down to the fenders. So there's no windshield, there's no sides, there's no doors. This is a fancy one. It had headlights out here. The one, well, it's got the marker lights up there. Ah, anyway. They drove back to Oklahoma. In 1911, they accepted a challenge to ride horseback from New York to San Francisco in 60 days or less. They agreed not to eat or sleep indoors at any point on the journey. They would collect $10,000 prize if they succeeded. All right, so who's making this deal for the kids? Are these people that are going to that put up this money, this contest, that make a bet with these two toddlers, these two kids, that they just send them a letter and say, "Hey, kids, if you could get to New York, I'll pay you. You can start from here and go to San Francisco. If you get there in 60 days, which nobody's ever done apparently, riding horseback and never sleep inside the whole trip, I'll give you $10,000." Who is watching? Who makes the deal for these kids? Somebody should have said, "Whoa, wait! $10,000. They don't sleep inside? No. At least on bad weather nights, they can sleep inside in a barn or get a hotel 5 times during the trip. Something. And then if they don't make it in 60 days, they don't lose the whole thing. Maybe they lose $1,000 a day that they're late, or $2,000 a day that they're late. So they got there in 62 days. That would have been $4,000. They still would have got $6,000. Let's just see. I think I've done this before, but when I was looking at the Civil War, when we were reading those letters and it told what those guys were getting paid, I looked up future money or past money. Okay, $1910 to 2024. I know it's 2025, but that's last year's dollars. Okay. Inflation calculator. Here we go. A dollar in 1910 is worth $33.21 today. All right, so if they're going to be 10,000, calculate. Where did it say that? All right. So you start out with $10,000, and you end up with. Gonna want to go over there. $332,097.89. So that's a lot of money. But if someone were to come to me and say, "Hey," I don't know how old they were at the time. Let's say you're 12-year-old and your 7-year-old. I'll pay them $333,000 if they can ride a horse from New York to San Francisco unsupervised, and have to sleep outside the whole time. Are you good to go? No. No, I'm not good to go. I don't understand. It makes for good stories. I hope they had a good time. I mean, maybe they followed the railroad. But you know how railroads are, man. They just cut through the hill. I mean, I get what you're saying. They say, like, well, how do I get to the next station? The train may go this way through, cross the river, down the gorge, and be there. And you might have to go around and around and still get up to the same stop. I mean, I guess the people were navigating in the 1910s with horses and cars because that's what they had, and it was just like us going and getting into the truck and going to Knoxville. I mean, because that's what they were doing back then. So I'm sure they had some kind of, I start New York and I go to this next town, I go to this next town, you go to that town. Maybe they did it like that. I mean, I'm sure they had some way of navigating, and they've had to have figured out the way. You take it at face value that the kids were unsupervised during their trip, but that's not to say that it wouldn't be like putting your kid on an airplane when they're 12 and you drop them off at the airport and a stewardess or steward, whoever, says, okay, little Johnny, you get in, you sit in your seat, and then when you get to the next city, another one picks them up and says, okay, here's where you need to go. You get on this plane, and then somebody, what I mean, every stop, even though the child rides the plane alone, at the next stop, someone's there to pick them up and say, okay, how's things going? Let's make sure you get something to eat. Have you slept? Let's change your clothes and get you on to the next phase. Maybe that's the way it went. I mean, when I look at it on these stories and you look at it at face value, it's like, dude, they went there all by themselves. You can picture them out there. One guy's steering the horse, the other kid's riding the back, and they're going, oh, I don't know where we're going. The horse knows the way. That's probably not the case. It was probably like I would hope, cross your fingers, I would hope that it was like an expedition, that the semi-adults involved in this craziness would give them a list or give them what. All right, so here's your itinerary. You go from New York to this state. When you get there, the next city, when you get there, this is where you go. There'll be food ready for you. They'll have a place, even though it might not be inside. They'll have a place for you to stay. They'll get you and make sure you're eating, you drink, and you're fed. Then when you leave there, you go to the next station. You stay there for 2 hours. You go to the next place. You stay there for 3 hours. You go to the next place. Then you have supper. All that kind of stuff. Maybe it was something like that. Where it was kind of a guided tour across, the United States with maybe there was like a ton of preparation. So these kids, even though they were riding unsupervised, they were riding by themselves. Maybe unsupervised doesn't mean that they just hopped on the horse and never seen an adult that they knew from New York to San Francisco. And nobody ever looked out for them, or nobody made sure they were fed. Nobody took care of the horses. Nobody said, oh, well, they wired me money. I'm supposed to, have your horse checked out, fed, groomed, saddled, ready for you. Maybe they switched horses. I don't know. Maybe it was planned out. But still, even with that, dude, they bought a car in New York and drove it back to Oklahoma. They drove it back to Oklahoma. All right. Let's see. Where did we go? After a long trip, they arrived in San Francisco in 62 days, thereby losing the prize but setting a record for the time elapsed for the trip. In 1913, the young boys purchased an Indian motorcycle and with their stepmother, Anton, or their stepbrother, I'm sorry, with their stepbrother, Anton, journeyed by motorcycle from Oklahoma to New York City. This was their last documented adventure. How did three boys ride an Indian motorcycle? How old was Anton? Was he the adult in the room? So it shows them here. Okay, there's no date recorded on this picture. Let me get that down where you can see it. Well, that thing doesn't want to shrink. It does, and then it pops back up. That says it's 25%. I can't get it to go any lower. I like this setup that this guy's got in the back, man. Can you see? Can you see his nose? This kid's been inhaling the exhaust the whole trip. He's been huffing the exhaust. His nose is as black as coal. The kid can barely reach the floorboards on this Indian motorcycle. You can't really tell, but it's got pedals like a bicycle here. It's a 2-cylinder. Got a stick shifter. Whoa, there we go. That's a little small. 100%. Oh, let's shrink it back down. Where did it go? There we go. That's a little better. So here they were when they made their horseback ride in 1910 from Oklahoma to New York to Manhattan. All right. So as they got older, Louis graduated from University of Oklahoma Law School and became a lawyer in Wichita Falls, Texas. Louis died in Austin, Texas in '79. Temple worked in the oil and gas business. Temple Abernaty died in Teague, Texas in 1986. Although they were noted celebrities at the time of their travels, they had almost disappeared from history. Frederick, Oklahoma celebrates their Santa Fe ride each year and has erected a statue of the boys and has dedicated part of the Chamber of Commerce website to promoting the boys' memory. Let's see. Mass media had extensive coverage of the boys at the time of their travels. They were the subjects of a 1910 film, Abernathy Kids to the Rescue. Temple Abernaty's widow, Alta Abernaty, wrote Bud and Me, a book about their adventures. So, when did they stop? Let's see. 1913, the boys purchased a motorcycle. This was their last documented adventure. So, basically, their run of adventures was 3 years. And they did a lot in 3 years. All right. So their first little adventure was from Oklahoma to Santa Fe, New Mexico and back, just to get their feet wet. That was in 1909. Okay. Then they went to 1910. They went to New York, rode the horse from Oklahoma to New York. That's when they bought the car and came back. 1911, they rode the horseback from New York to San Francisco. And then in 1913, 2 years later, It's when they bought the Indian motorcycle and rode it from Oklahoma to New York City with their stepbrother. So maybe they just did it as summertime good, good times were had by all adventurers. I don't know. Let's see if we can get anything on this movie real quick. Abernathy kids to the rescue. All right, let's see. Let's turn on some sound. What? That's in German. Well, that ain't no good. I don't have sound. I don't hear it either, so there is no sound to be had. Maybe it was a silent movie. Come on, kids. I got some wolf patties to eat. They're going to load it up in baskets and take it to Grandma's house. This is a story about Little Red Riding Hood here, except it was with the Abernaty brothers. So here they are riding through the forest. Boy, they gave the biggest horse to the littlest kid. Look at that. There's the old man chopping wood. Hey, Paul. Give it up, boys. Woo, let's hear it for the old man and his axe. Oh, so they took him lunch. All right, kind of boring. Wah, wah, wah. All right, so that was the Abernathy Kid adventure story. Blows my mind. Blows my mind. Maybe, just maybe, it's not as dangerous as what I pictured in my mind. It's still nuts. Still just blows my mind. What can I say? Mind's blown. Apparently they made some cartoons. We should have looked up some. We should have looked up some images, man. All right, wait. We got to go back. I got to show you this. I got to show you this. You'll want to see it. There he is. There he is. That looks like Temple. Just looking at some of the other pictures, this is Temple, and I'm guessing this is their Bushmobile. Oh, there's their cartoon. Excuse me, cartoon characters. That's interesting. I don't know what that was. Wow, what was that? Oh, there's their statue. That's pretty cool. Huh. Oh. Oh, I guess that's them, really them in the parade. Kid still got his goggles on. All right, okay, 45 minutes. Oh, here's one of the pops. There's one of the pops. He got his Marshall bat. What do these kids get? How do they get holes in their head? Okay, enough of that silliness. All right, that's it. Episode 180 in the books. Mrs. Milo Show. If you made it this far, thank you very much. Garthog, thanks for coming by. Hope your New Year's a good one. Hope tomorrow is a good one. Got anything special planned for your day off? I don't know what I'm going to do. Work, do something. Anyway, if you made it this far in the video, you're probably not watching it live, but that don't matter. Leave me a comment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, a thumbs down, share it, tell your friends about it, watch it multiple times. I don't know. Leave me suggestions. I got some other videos in the works. Been doing a little videotaping of some of my projects. Trying to do a little bit more of that, but they won't be as regular as my live streams. Just because live streams are, so much easier to do. I don't have to edit them. All I have to do is figure out what I'm going to talk about. Do a little bit of research, sit down, talk for 45 minutes or so, laugh and make fun of pictures, have a good old time, talk with Garthog, and as he's probably running around the house doing other things, stopping by and then off to his next thing. But anyway, check back in Thursdays at 9. If you've seen any of the other ones, talk about getting back on Monday nights too. I don't know if that's going to happen, to be honest with you. Just don't know, but we'll see. We're halfway through the winter. I was telling some guy today that at work, I think December 21st, is that when it was? Winter solstice. So the days are going to start getting longer and longer and longer. That means we're in the downhill slide into spring and summer. So that's hard to believe. I know it's hard to believe, but I'll hee-haw around and say, well, during the wintertime, I'm going to get back to two shows a night or a week. It probably is not going to happen. Probably not going to happen. Just to let you know, but I'll still promise it. I'll still say, I might get back to that. I might do 2 shows, 2 shows. But I am working on some other videos. But anyway, I ramble on. That's what this show's all about. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for watching. Leave me a comment. I still got my phone going on. We can take calls, but not now. I'm going to go do something else. Like you should. You should probably go look up at the Abernaty kids. All right. See you later. Let me see if I can get this thing to stop. It's been so long now. Stop streaming. That's the button I'm looking for. Stop streaming. All right.